Now to the latest on that revolt by the group of mercenaries who headed to Moscow, but then stood down. Vladimir Putin addressed the country last night, just hours after the mercenary leader issued his own message. ABC's Ian Pannell has more.
Кого втянули в преступление?
This morning, Russian President Vladimir Putin angrily denouncing the mutiny against him after a one-day rebellion that shook the foundations of his two-decade-long rule.
Вооруженный мятеж в любом случае.
Putin accusing the mutineers of betrayal, claiming an armed uprising would have been suppressed anyway, even though they actually got within 120 miles of Moscow. Putin didn't mention either Wagner, the private military company whose mercenaries marched against Russia's military leaders, or its chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Putin tried to project strength and unity when at the height of the crisis there was neither. He gave the Wagner troops an ultimatum: swear allegiance to your country, go back home, or leave for Belarus. Putin's recorded statement following Prigozhin's first address since the uprising too. The leader of the Wagner private military company saying it was a protest, not a coup, against attempts to dissolve his forces into the regular Russian army, slated to begin next week. Claiming he stopped the advance short of Moscow to avoid shedding Russian blood and that he didn't want to overthrow the Putin government. Putin speaking to military and law enforcement officers in Moscow this morning, thanking them for what he says was stopping a civil war. President Biden weighing in publicly for the first time since the uprising, stressing that while the US and NATO allies weren't involved, that their continued coordination is key to what comes next.
I will keep making sure that our allies and our partners are closely aligned in how we are reading and responding to the situation.
It was the war in Ukraine that brought this conflict in Russia to a head. Putin's men now under pressure to hold back a Ukrainian counter-offensive on multiple fronts. Two interesting notes this morning. Firstly, no confirmed sighting of Prigozhin. And secondly, Putin's defense minister Shoigu, the man who Prigozhin marched towards Moscow to try and unseat, was once again standing by the side of his president this morning. In other words, he doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It's hard to see quite what the mutineers achieved. Ian Pannell, ABC News in Izum, Ukraine.